Welcome back to This Week in Bevy. This is the first This Week in Bevy after Bevy 0.14. And that's because the release candidate process has completed for the first time and Bevy 0.14 is available now on crates.io. You can check out the official release post, as you can see here, which has a very long list of features, as well as the comprehensive migration guide. If you're here watching this video, you may be interested in the video that I did covering the Bevy 0.14 release. Many crates have already been updated, so check your dependencies. You can see here a reverse dependency search on crates.io. And for the crate section this week, we'll be omitting crates whose changelog is mostly just updated to 0.14. So make sure you check your dependencies if you're looking to get up to date. And if you are working on upgrading and find yourself in a situation where you're running into weird errors or have multiple versions of Bevy installed, you can use cargo tree, which comes with cargo, and specifically -i. So cargo tree -i Bevy will give you all of the crates in your cargo.lock that depend on a specific version of Bevy. So you can see what is pulling in that 0.13 dependency and get it upgraded. With that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about Cosmic Text. Cosmic Text is a crate that provides text shaping, layout, and rendering under an abstraction. It is also the crate used by System76's Pop! OS in their upcoming Cosmic Desktop environment. Why are we talking about this? Well, because 10,193 is a PR that implements Cosmic Text inside of Bevy and replaces the previously used AB glyph. Now, I do believe this is the first PR we've seen merged that will go into the 0.15 release cycle, so keep your eye out for that over the next couple months. And of course, with every even release, there's a Bevy Game Jam. In this case, the Bevy Jam working group kicked off and is working on getting ready for it already. Bevy Game Jam number 5 will happen between July 20th and 29th. You can read the rules and sign up over on itch.io. And for about the next week, you can submit potential themes in the Discord channel. Submission closes on the 14th and voting starts for the theme. Voting closes on the 20th when the jam starts, and then you'll have about a week to build out your game. There's also a channel for finding a team if you'd like to participate with other people, so head on over to the Discord if you're looking to do that. It also looks like the working group is going to build a semi-official Bevy Game Jam template ready for the jam, so that will be exciting to see as well. And as usual, but a little earlier than usual, we've got a merge train from Alice, which is a maintainer level view into active PRs, both those that are emerging and those that need some work. And with that, we get into our showcases. This is the Bevy Water Screen Space Reflections demo, which shows off some of the new features in Bevy 0.14, like screen space reflections, and uses the Bevy Water Crate, a dynamic water material with waves. This is applied to the forest scene that you might have seen in the Bevy 0.14 release, and just absolutely looks fantastic in my opinion. And similar to the Rust playground, this unofficial Bevy playground enables the compilation and viewing of Bevy games from a browser. Some popular crates can be used, and official Bevy examples are pulled from the repo and available to run, as you can see in this drop-down menu here. Next up, we've got a preview of some of the graphics for an in-progress Shopkeeper game. This is pretty early stage, so expect more as it develops. And one of my favorite showcases this week is this 1-bit City Stim, a 1-bit art style city simulation game using sprites. This uses a minimal set of additional crates, such as Rand and Noise, and just absolutely looks fantastic. I feel like if this were available, I would totally buy this game. But of course, I definitely played SimCity when I was younger. Next up, we've got a new multiplayer shooter demo for Lightyear, Lightyear being the networking library. The physics are powered via XPBD, which I assume will upgrade to Avian Physics at some point in the near future. And most interestingly, it functions a little bit similar to Rocket League with some rollback action happening and client-side prediction on the asteroids. This demo shows off pixel mapping, a compute shader via nannou and Bevy. Pixel mapping is mapping a display to an LED light, which is what you can see on the right and the left. And this LED light is powered by nannou and Bevy using a compute shader. This is basically in-progress work showing off nannou's re-platforming effort to build on top of Bevy plugins. And just like that, we're back into water simulation. This is a work in progress on a realistic enough water simulation that can be run as a real-time part of a game. The demo is using a midpoint-based spatial solver and Euler's method for time. There's lots of low-hanging fruit for numerical stability, so looking forward to more on this in the future. A later demo shows off 2D Gertzner waves. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, so refer to the site for the spelling. This is from the Simulating Ocean Water paper by Tessendorf, 2001. Next up, we've got one of my own, which is some creative coding using a UI material shader, building segments of lines, and loading them in over time as the Bevy application boots up. We've got a couple of hot reload mentions this week. In this case, Bevy Cobweb UI, which is, as far as I can tell, unreleased as of this demo, powering the hot reloading of UI scenes, as you can see here. Once the text is done working, the file is saved and reloaded into the running game. And next up, we've got huge voxel planets, which looks a little bit like one of those fractal games where you just keep going and everything keeps, coming in around you. But this is just really, really, really big planets as well as surfaces. The huge voxel planets are aided by big space, and the terrain is completely procedural. Level of details are determined by an octtree, and then each chunk is generated and then meshed at that specific LOD. The object sizes in order of appearance are 1.4 million kilometers, 139,000 kilometers, 12,000 kilometers, 3,000 kilometers, and finally, there's a cube all the way at the end here that is a single kilometer wide. Next up, we've got a first-person demo that gained the ability to punch to open these trash cans. If you liked that demo, you may also be interested in the first-person view model example in the Bevy repo, originally authored by the same person. And next up, we've got a spelunky-like roguelike. Progress on this spelunky-like roguelike uses fully procedurally generated levels. It includes level progression, damage health items, and invincibility frames, character movement via TNUA, and camera clamping on arbitrary level sizes. Moving on, we've got some isometric support in HillVacuum, which is a Doom-style level editor. In this case, it looks to me like the isometric projection is actually the mathematically correct one, potentially, because typically in games, isometric doesn't actually mean isometric, it means dimetric, because you usually have 2 pixels over for 1 pixel up. And you can see here the top point and the bottom point of each of these squares is a little bit shifted. Whereas in what is typically used for, 2D sprites, they would be on top of each other. After that, we've got a state machine animation controller. This is a demo of an animation state machine, that is animation controllers, working in Bevy Animation Graph. This is not the animation graph from Bevy. This is a crate called Bevy Animation Graph, which is a separate thing. This is in preparation for the 0.4 release. And that's it for showcases, but we're going to start off the crate releases with an extremely strong showing from Avian Physics. Avian is an ECS-driven physics engine for Bevy, and it is the next evolution of Bevy XPBD, with a completely rewritten contact solver, improved performance, a reworked structure, and numerous other improvements and additions over XPBD. Some highlights, as we have briefly talked about, is a solver rewrite, a reworked narrow phase, continuous collision detection, optional collision margins, improved performance, and so on and so forth. The blog post here does a fantastic job of showing some of the issues from XPBD and their solutions in Avian. If you are looking to upgrade from a previous version of XPBD, note that there is an XPBD release that is 0.14 compatible, and then once jumping to 0.14, you can move over to Avian Physics. This is the culmination of a lot of work over a long period of time, so I'm very excited to see this one come out. Next up, we've got aery 0.7. aery is a plugin that enables a subset of entity relationship features for Bevy. New in 0.7 is that aery relationships can now reflect, thanks to hooks allowing for serialization and use in scenes. Some APIs were changed because they've been superseded by the new component hooks and observers in 0.14, and there are some other improvements. aery is definitely a crate to keep an eye on, especially now that observers are in, if you're interested in the future of ECS relations inside of Bevy. Bevy Common Assets got a release as well. Bevy Common Assets is a collection of plugins offering generic asset loaders for common file formats. That includes things like JSON, RON files, TOML, XML, CSVs, and now, new in version 0.11, Postcard. Postcard is a no-standard focused serializer and deserializer for Serde. Another exciting crate to see a release is Dexterous Developer. Dexterous Developer powers hot reloading your Rust game code. What can you reload? Any systems you want, resources, components, states that can be serialized, and events. It also, in this release, lets you develop on one machine and run the hot reloaded game on another machine, currently with the restriction that they have to be the same platform. Bevy Lunix got a release. Bevy Lunix is a path-based retained layout engine for Bevy entities, built around vanilla Bevy ECS. You may have seen it in the Bevy Punk examples. Bevy Lunix 0.2 gains support for 2D meshes. And Pyre State aims to be a flexible Bevy State alternative. Bevy State is the new crate in Bevy 0.14 to handle states, computed states, and substates. while Pyre State tries to advance on those concepts. And of course, as any good release has, Pyre State comes complete with full documentation and a folder full of runnable examples, so definitely go check it out if Bevy State isn't meeting your needs. Bevy Coroutine is a library to run coroutines in Bevy. Bevy Coroutine can help you with spreading the execution of a system across several frames and running systems in sequence over time. There's some example code right in the README, so go take a look if this is something that you're interested in. And next up, we've got Bevy Dynanim, that is dynamic animation. Bevy Dynanim is a procedural animation or second-order dynamics crate inspired by the work of Tessellator. That work is shown here. There's not much documentation for this one yet, so be prepared to read the source code if you want to use it. And just a quick warning, the screen is about to get a little bit brighter. A series of crates relating to being able to return errors from systems and display those errors in TOS alongside a Bevy app were released. This series includes Bevy Anyhow Alert, Bevy Mod Tri-System, and Bevy UI Mod Alerts. Finally, we talked about it a bit in the showcase earlier, but Bevy Animation Graph, which is not the animation graph inside of Bevy itself, but a separate third-party crate, is an alternative animation crate for Bevy, supporting animation graphs, basic inverse kinematics, a graphical editor, and more. 0.4 brings many editor improvements and animation state machines as nodes in the graph. And for devlogs this month in Rust GameDev is back up and running, so if you're interested in the wider Rust GameDev ecosystem outside of Bevy, go check it out. Be warned, there is no dark mode. And to round it out with an educational piece today, we've got 0 to Pong with Bevy. Faceless Fox wiped their Windows install this week and recorded a video writing a Pong game from scratch, including the installation of all required dependencies, including Rust, VS Code, and so on. This is a Windows-based tutorial, so as you might expect, those dependencies are installed on Windows. And that's it for this week. As usual, we do have all of the pull requests that were merged this week if you'd like to look at the full list, as well as the pull requests that were opened and the issues that were opened this week. With the 0.14 release out, I expect to be about a week of people just taking time off before getting back into it. However, there are PRs already up for big rendering features and things like that. As we've seen, the Cosmic Text PR just got landed. There's work happening in the working groups for all sorts of things. So take a second to enjoy the 0.14 stable release, and we'll get back to it next week. Finally, don't forget about the jam. The jam is always a really good time. So if you're interested, definitely get involved, even if you're not sure about it. I'll see you next week.